Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'm going to be planting up my Dahlia plants here. So I've got 3 tubers and there's 2 different types of Dahlias. These were actually from a proper catalogue online, seed company. This one was actually really cheap in a local discount supermarket. Interesting thing is the one from the expensive seed catalogue has actually got an awful lot of damage. Might be because of the post. Could be because of the quality of the stock, I'm not too sure, or it could also be because of the type of roots. You can see there's an awful lot of damage here. A lot of the tubers are kind of snapped off from the main stem, so that's a bit disappointing. I have still got quite a few new shoots coming on it, so it will grow, but it's a shame that so many of these tuber roots have kind of snapped off. And this one over here is even worse. You can see there it's really looking in a pretty poor state. Some of these have really been broken off, and that I think is more than just postage, so I wasn't too happy to see that kind of damage on it. There was even one that had completely snapped off from the main stem. But the one from the supermarket hasn't got any damaged roots. It might be because this type of Dahlia has much shorter tubers which aren't really attached with long finger-like projections like those ones. This one looks a lot better. This is also starting to shoot recently, so we need to get this planted up. So the one from the supermarket is this one here. Dahlia Colour Spectacle. This other one is called England's Glory. It's very similar kind of looking, same kind of style of Dahlia with many petals, large flowers, with the tips being a different colour to the main part, although the tips on this one are white like this one. However, the actual main section of the petals are kind of bright pink colour instead. So it's very similar flower, just with kind of bright pink as opposed to orange on that one. So I'm going to plant this one up in a very large pot. This one I'm going to put in my second biggest pot. And this one I'm going to wait and see. I might try and put this outside in the garden somewhere, but I haven't got so many high hopes for this because it's not looking so well. There are a few signs that it is alive and it will take. See if I can find any of those kind of shoots. So just here, it's kind of hard to show on the camera, but there's the smallest sign of a little bit of growth just coming out of that shoot there. So hopefully this one will do well, even though it's kind of really looking bad. Hopefully it'll still grow. Just have to see. But anyway, I'll plant these 2 up, and as I say, I'll put this in the garden somewhere and see how it does. I haven't got high hopes for this, unfortunately, because of the amount of damage it's had. So this is a very, very large pot here. It's been out on the balcony, so probably could do with a bit of clean on the outside, but the inside is fine. The mix I'm using is a very rich multi-purpose compost with a bit of perlite added just to give a bit more free draining and airflow to the soil. And I've also added in a little bit of John's number 3 because it's got a good lot of feed in that. And also I think a bit of loam will help this. I find pure peat composts aren't always the best. If you add a bit of loam, it does seem to help out. So I'm just going to make a hollow in here where I'm going to put in the large tuber. Now I did have one growing last year in this. It didn't seem to do very well. I think it was mainly aphids seemed to really hit it hard, and it had some cold weather. It just never seemed to do too well. So hopefully this one will do better this year. I'll show you a picture now of how that one looked when I first had it planted in here. It never really grew at all, actually, just kind of sat there. But I'll show you a picture also of one I put out in a garden. Very similar variety, and it grew absolutely really well, and it grew really quite large by the end of October. And the picture I'll show you is actually from October. So as you can see from that, it's actually it did grow a lot. So that should be a big enough hollow now for my largest tuber. I'm just going to carefully place it in. Check the height, so you can see there it needs to go down a good bit lower. So I need to continue removing more soil from the middle. So that's about at the right height now. So what I need to do now is fill it in with the remaining compost. Just wanting to bury it, so I can have some of this stem coming above the ground, but I don't want all of the roots buried, and where the shoots are coming out of needs to be buried as well. So I'll just top up the compost level. Now it's a large tuber, so I've given it a very large pot. Hopefully this will do well for me. It should be quite a big plant. I did actually want to plant this much earlier, but even though I ordered this in December, and it was supposed to arrive kind of January, February time, it didn't actually arrive until the end of March. So unfortunately I'm a bit late with planting this. If I had planted it earlier, it would have been a little bit better. So it is off to the side slightly, that's just because the roots are kind of awkward. I would have preferred to have it in the middle of the pot, but it's not a big issue if it's on the side. I just position it slightly differently. So that's that one planted up. I'll now go on to my other tuber. So I'll just go ahead and plant my other tuber here. This one should be a lot easier. This plant's, let's say the tuber is a lot more compact. It's not going to have any issues with the roots being so large as the other one did. So you can just see the top of the shoot is just a little bit there, that little white bit there. So that's just above the surface. I could have buried it, but I don't really need to add any more soil to this compost. And to be honest, as long as the rest of the roots are buried, you can have the very tips pointing out the top. So that's those two planted up. What I'm going to do now is give them a good water, put them somewhere warm, and give them as much light as possible. I really want to try and give them a good head start before summer comes. Here in Scotland, it's very cold in our summers, and especially in our springs. Our springs are really quite frosty sometimes. So I need to try and give this as much warmth as I can. To give it a good head start, especially as I'm planting this a lot later than I had hoped. I had hoped to plant this in February time, get a good head start on the season, because dahlias are very late flowering plants. They tend to flower at the end of summer. If you can get them well forced and you can grow them on from winter time, then you can get them to flower midsummer. Or if you live in a hot country, you can easily get them to flower midsummer. But here in Scotland, just because the summer's quite cold, they tend to grow quite slowly. And they flower kind of September, October time, so you don't get as long a season as you would in other places. So I'll try and give this a good head start, somewhere nice and warm, nice and bright, see how it does, and I'll give you guys an update in a few weeks' time. Probably about kind of the end of April, I'll give you an update. As I say, I'll try and keep this nice and warm, and hopefully it'll grow nice and quickly for me and produce lovely flowers by the end of summer.